Good afternoon, my dolly friends. Gina here. Welcome to Little Midwest Reborns and Dolls. I noticed I had a few new subscribers, and I just want to come on, and you might be wondering, well, how did you pick your channel name? So I'm going to tell you about that. I picked my channel name because I live in the Midwest and I was a huge fan of the Little House books and series by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And just so you know, the Ingalls family was a real pioneer family. The books that she wrote were from memories and stories she remembered from her childhood and actual events that happened to them. Were they all exactly perfect and, a true biography? Not exactly. I'm sure some of it was embellished, and a lot of it is just from memory, and sometimes our memories aren't 100% authentic or accurate. So, anyway, she wrote these books and wrote them for children, and I probably read each and every one of her books about 8 to 10 times. Even as an adult, I reread them. I love the Little. So that's where we get the Little from. Um, and as far as reborns and dolls, well, about 99%, no, maybe 98. We'll go 98. 98% of my content, I will be showing my reborn dolls. To me, they are the icing on the cake with the cherry on top, ultimate realistic baby doll. And I have loved baby dolls my entire life. Each year for Christmas, I got a new baby doll growing up, and I loved my dolls. I enjoyed them more than Barbies. I enjoyed them more than any other types of dolls that I had, like little Kittles and Barbies. I enjoyed my baby dolls. They were the cat's meow, so to speak. Um, so as a grown up, then finding out about reborns and how realistic and gorgeous, and then all that goes into them to create them, I just fell in love. But the reason the name of my channel is Little Midwest Reborns and Dolls is because as an adult, I decided that my most favorite childhood dolls, which now they would be considered vintage, I wanted to put back in my doll collection. I also, after the Barbie movie came out, even though Barbies weren't my most favorite, I went down a little bit of a Barbie doll collecting rabbit hole. And in watching other people's wonderful channels, I discovered Blythe dolls. So I have a couple of factory Blythes as well. So sometimes I will show, and I have a rag doll collection. Some people would call it a cloth stuffed doll nowadays. I still call them rag dolls after Raggedy Ann. Um, and those rag dolls that I have, those are all from my childhood. Every one of them. I didn't give those up, I had kept them. So sometimes I show those, and and I love stuffed animals and the loveys, and I'm a collector of things. So this segment, what you're watching today, is Gina's World. And on Gina's World, what I basically do is come on, I hold a doll, and I talk to you, and I share life updates, and I tell a little bit of my story. So today, I want you to see in front of you is my beautiful Francesca. Yeah, you're probably wondering, well, who is that little beauty you're holding? Well, this is my Francesca Grace. And Francesca's kit name and her sculptor and then her reborn artist who painted her will all be in the description of this video. So all you need to know is this is my precious Francesca Grace. And I decided today we're going to go ahead and change her. She has been in this beautiful little romper for quite some time. I love it. I did a twinning with my dear friend Karen over at Follow Your Dreams Reborn Nursery. It's Karen Rowe. And yeah, she and I twinned with this romper and even the same headband and sockies. But now I'm going to go ahead and change Francesca. And you're probably thinking, so what's up, Gina? What's going on? What else do you want to share with us? Well, what else I want to share with you is some of you know my aunt, who was 98, my father's sister and only living sibling. He was the youngest of six. Has passed away. She died yesterday, early evening, late afternoon. I received a message from my cousin around a little after 5 p.m. my time, and she let me know that she had passed. And you know, my aunt was 98. She lived a full life. All her children are grown. Her grandchildren are grown. In fact, she has one great grandchild. And she, in the end, she had lost her hearing. She was kind of a set in her ways woman, in that I'm going to change little Francesca. Well, I tell you this. Kind of a set in her ways. She had trouble hearing, but she decided that she did not like her hearing aids. She didn't like them. So she didn't wear them. So when you went over to visit in the later years, she couldn't hear a thing you said. So when you wanted to say, hello, how are you? You wrote it down on a pad of paper. They had a pad. You passed it over, and she would verbally answer you and then pass the paper back. And if she asked you a question, then you answered the question on the paper. And so that's how our conversations went at the end. She also, unfortunately, in the very last, probably 15 years of her life, she had Alzheimer's, and in the end, she didn't even know who her children were, which is very sad. And I was very, very close to the two youngest. There was 4 cousins in that family from that particular aunt. And my oldest cousin died over 10 years ago of a heart attack. From not my oldest cousin in the family, but the oldest cousin from that aunt. I have lots and lots and lots and lots of cousins. I grew up where when we all got together for Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter, and you had everybody, when my father's siblings were still alive and they came with their spouses and their children, there was 30 or more of us at all the family gatherings. So that was just normal to me. So anyway, and that was just my regular first cousins. We're not talking about then later when my cousins married and had children. And so anyway, my aunt, she passed. While I'm sad, she was 98. She's better off. She can hear again. I believe, I'm a Christian, and I believe in God, Jesus. I believe and declare that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and that He came to this earth and was crucified for us for the forgiveness of sins, died on a cross, and He then rose from the dead, and we now can be forgiven because He sacrificed and did all that for us. So I believe my aunt is in heaven. And I believe that in an afterlife, and I believe I will see her again. So that's all good, but it's going to be hard to officially say goodbye at her funeral. This is not going to be easy for my cousins. Now, what have I put little Miss Francesca in? I've put her in a gown. It has the elastic at the waist. It's a white gown with little tiny pink daisy looking flowers and little green leaves. In the center of this gown is a beautiful little tiny satin white bow. The collar and on the shoulders is this pink trim. There is a pink trim around the cuffs of the sleeves, and it does have the type of fold over, so if I wanted to cover her hands, I could cover her little hands. But we decided to put her in this gown and change her because today is a day where we just kind of want to be in comfortable, relaxing clothes, nothing tight and binding. And although she looked absolutely darling in that little romper, I just thought, and it's also only 68 degrees here today. So yesterday was like 88 and we had thunderstorms and tornado warnings and tornado sirens going off because it was hot. And today it's 68. Leave it to the Midwest. So anyway, so I just thought I'd put little Miss Francesca in this cute little comfy, soft gown. This is also the first time I have ever put any of my babies in this outfit. So this is new doll clothes brought to us by Jay at JayDollsUK. So there we have Francesca in this beautiful little gown that I just can't seem to quit fiddling with and get it on her just the way I want it to look. So I'm going to give up here and just hold this beautiful girl in my arms and enjoy her. So what else is going on? I think that's really, my son is getting married. He finally set a wedding date. Their wedding date is March 28th of 2026. So, and he will be coming in from Florida. He and his fiance have decided that they're going to get married here. Yes, they are, because most of his family lives here. Yes, and her family, even if they stayed in Florida from where they live, because some of them live in different states, and some of them even live in different parts of Florida, they all have to come in and fly in. And she said, rather than have my family fly in and get here, and then your family all try to come down here, why don't we do it in St. Louis? Because then that way 90% or more of your family is in St. Louis. And so we can go there, and my family can just go there because they're going to have to travel anyway, no matter where we have it. And that way it'll be easier on at least one of our sides. So she's very sweet, very thoughtful, and that's what they're doing. They will be coming here and getting married. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I was just, I'm okay. One fun thing, my sister called me yesterday. My sister called me yesterday and asked if she could come over. And she said, Aunt Madeline introduced us to fuzzy navels. And I said, oh my God, that's my aunt. I said, oh my gosh, I remember that. And I said, I can remember Mom saying, those girls don't need that. No, don't give it to them. And she said, oh, I won't put anything in it, or I'm just going to put a drop. She put more than a drop in it. We could taste the peach schnapps in the orange juice. So that was kind of funny. Now, we weren't itty bitty little kids. I mean, I was probably 21 and engaged. My sisters were younger teenagers, but that's why my mom was like, no. But anyway, So in honor of her yesterday, my sister brought over orange juice and peach schnapps, and we had a fuzzy navel and toasted to my aunt. So that was kind of a nice thing. And of course, we talked about all the happy memories of Thanksgivings and Christmases and just sometimes going over and visiting and them coming to our house and yeah. So we really talked about memories. Um, my sister had been at my mom and dad's house when they got the call, and um, and then I called my father once I found out and said, how about I'm going to come over? And he said, no, 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 honey, that's not necessary. And I said, no, Dad, really, I don't mind. I'll come over. And he said, no, honey, you just stay home and rest. So I kind of got the feeling he needed to be alone in his thoughts and in his processing of this. So, and then with my sister, she had gone over to help change the sensor on my mom's Dexcom, and because my mother's a type 1 diabetic. She's been a diabetic since she was 17 years old, so she's a juvenile. They used to call it juvenile diabetes, but at any rate, we were changed hers. The sensor on her blood sugar meter needed to be changed, and she does have an insulin pump, but the pump you change every 3 days. So it's not quite as simple as everybody thinks. Oh, it's a pump. No, it doesn't work just like your pancreas. And I'm going to get off my soapbox now because I get tired of you don't have the knowledge and you make an assumption and you don't really know how it works and you think it's easy, and it's not. It's a lot more complicated than people realize. So anyway, and I would say other health issues that my mother has have all been caused by her diabetes, even though she ate properly, totally stayed away from sugar, exercised 6 days a week for 60 minutes a day, and still had uncontrollable blood sugar. So, yeah. And that's why she's blind now, is from having diabetic retinopathy and having um, glaucoma that came from that, and rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis, all autoimmune diseases. And my mother is 83, and she is like a woman that is probably 95. And my mother is highly intelligent and funny and very direct. You knew if she liked you or if she didn't. It wasn't hidden. She wasn't unkind, but if she didn't care for you much, she just didn't give you the time of day. So that was my mother, or is my mother. And now she is suffering from some form of dementia where she's lost a lot of her short-term memory, and she repeats questions constantly, and having a conversation with her, unfortunately, is very difficult. But anyway, I didn't mean to go into a myriad of my mother and her health issues. So, but anyway, my sister was there. The point of the story was my sister was over there helping and changing the sensor because my father gets so worked up every 10 days when they have to change the sensor on the Dexcom. So, they got that call, and then they needed to make other calls, but my sister said, well, I'm going to stay longer. And she said to my dad, are you sure you don't want Gina to come over? Why don't we call her back and tell her to come over? And my dad said, no, really, it's not necessary. My mom was like, yeah, have her come. And my dad was like, no, no. So that's why my sister said, then my dad said to her, well, don't you need to be getting home? Isn't your husband waiting for you? Don't you have to feed your dog? So my sister felt like, he really doesn't want me here either. So once they had everything settled, that's when she called me and said, hey, I want to do something to remember our aunt. And this is one thing I remember the most. And it was fun. And then even when we were in our 20s, and I'm drinking age, she always made sure she had orange juice and peach schnapps in the house so we could have a fuzzy navel with her. Um, so anyway, and it sounds like we drank all the time. We didn't. We had one. It was just for fun. It's like when she said, okay, well, if you want a cup of coffee or a Coke. Of course, soda was not, children did not get soda except for very special occasions. We drank Kool-Aid, we drank water, we drank milk. So that was it. Um, but on family barbecues and like Christmas and Easter, and the kids got to have soda too. So that was really fun. I remember my cousin Mary and I, one of my youngest cousins, 2 years younger, she and I couldn't drink a whole can of a soda. Um, it was just too much for us. So rather than waste it, we would split. We would split. So we would have to agree on a can, a flavor, because usually they had not just Coca-Cola, but they had like Sprite, and they had grape, and they had orange, and they had root beer. So my uncle worked in a grocery store, was a truck driver for it, so he would get the soda when it was on sale and get the different flavors. And then when we had the family gatherings, um, yeah, there was a special cooler filled with ice with just those in it for us kids to have. But if you took a can, you had to drink the whole thing. They didn't want to waste it. So, anyway, that's about it. Those are just a few of my precious memories, and I hope you don't mind that I shared this with you today. I'm sorry, this is a lengthy video. Um, everyone have a good rest of your weekend. And no matter what you're doing, always remember that God loves you and He's always there for you. God bless, my dolly friends.